Hello, everyone. This is episode 59 of the Inventive Marketing Club. We're here every Friday morning so we can build a better marketing strategy together. This week's topic, we're discussing WooCommerce with Ronald Gijsel from Automattic. I've known Ronald for quite some time now. We met at one of the meetups in Cheltenham, I believe it was. And basically, Ronald was running his own company at that point, and then he moved to work for a plugin developer over in Italy. I think they were called YIF. And now is working for Automattic. So I'm going to be having a discussion with Ronald about a little bit about his move and also where e-commerce is heading and how WooCommerce fits within that into the future years. So we'll be looking at the benefits of WooCommerce for a WordPress website, selling through omnichannels, whatever that may be. Ronald will explain all, and also the WordPress community, how that's growing and how Automattic is supporting it. Hello, Ronald. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. Nice to see you again.
It is good to see you again. I think the last time we met was down in Brighton for one of the WordCamps.
Wow.
I don't remember. That was definitely before COVID. Could have been 2019.
Well, the last 2 years didn't really happen, did they?
No, they didn't exist.
Yeah. They don't count.
But it's nice to see you again. Nice to catch up. I remember we had a good catch up in a bar. It was good fun, and I kind of miss that. It's one of the things I miss about the COVID is actually I used to relish catching up for some of the WordCamps and the meetups and meeting like-minded people where we could have a bit of a nerd out over not just WordPress, but anything to do with web development and code and clients.
But it's coming back. I did a London WooCommerce meetup, a real life one, only a few weeks ago. And that was great. About 40, 50 people turned up. And it was that buzz again of meeting people you've met in the past. You pick up on conversations. And so it's really encouraging to see that lots of folks are hungry for that sort of interaction again and wanting to learn and connect. So that's hopefully that will only increase now in the coming months and years.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, I need an excuse to get out of the house because otherwise I don't see much daylight. Perhaps you could let us know a little bit of your, not history as such. I mean, we've got a bit more of your history actually on a previous podcast. I'm sure Claire can link that in the notes for us. But maybe just talk to us about your sort of recent history working with YIF, the plugin developer, and how Automattic have sort of lured you away and you've moved over to the dark side. No, it's not the dark side.
Right. So as you said, before YIF, I was a business owner. We looked after loads and loads of sites, small sites. I didn't need much, but there were quite a few substantial WooCommerce sites. And they were the interesting ones because WooCommerce is something you do much more than just building the site. You're helping the business owner. And that's the power of that being that consultant, and consultant is a bit of an overused word, I think, I really very much enjoyed. So I used that strength moving to YIF, where I helped the business in connecting with these developers and store owners. And then after a couple of years, it was time for me to go to the home of WooCommerce, and that's always been my goal for many years, even before joining YIF. So it was time to move to them. And WooCommerce is owned by Automattic. Automattic is a company that's just I think it's slightly more than 2,000 people now, with employees that span over all countries. I think just under 100. I think once we hit the 100, that'll be a big celebration. Recently been awarded as one of the best companies to work for.
And right.
The journey into Automattic has been fantastic, and it's better than I expected it to be.
Well, I was having a quick look. I was just bringing up some tabs ready for our call, and I think one of the first pages that came up when I was searching for Automattic was this page. It wasn't the home page; it's actually the Work With Us page. And I was looking through this, going, "Oh, she looks quite nice." Yeah, I might have a look. So, what is it that's nice about working for Automattic? What are the great things apart from the remote working from anywhere?
Yeah, so they are set up to work as a distributed company. So the way you communicate, the way people treat you, the diversity. It's all embedded right from the beginning as you join, and I've been doing it for many years. Matt himself is a advocate in distributed working, and so we have to work very hard in order to do that. So if you work with colleagues on the other side of the world, they work a normal 9-to-5 job. Well, you have probably no overlapping, maybe half an hour or an hour of overlapping working time together. So you need to respect that. So the way that we publish and communicate is done in an asynchronous way. And that can be difficult to start with when you join, to understand how best to practice that. But once you get used to that, it's very enjoyable, because it also means that you have time for yourself and people respect that. And you're encouraged to work hard when it's your working time, but also shut off and do other things when it's not your working time.
Yeah, no, can I ask, I didn't actually have this, I didn't run through it as a question I might ask you, but what software do you use to communicate remotely and asynchronously particularly?
Slack is the main communication tool to talk directly. If you have a question and you expect an answer fairly soon, that you use Slack. But the ideal is called a P2, and P2 is a WordPress blog that's sort of designed for various teams. And the P2 is you write your piece, your contribution, or you comment in either your team's P2, as they call it, or somebody else's P2. And you can cross-link that. You can tag people in. It's a bit like Slack, but of course it means that you don't get notified until you turn on your computer.
I'd say that's probably quite a good thing, isn't it? That you're only notified when you're at work again.
Yeah, and of course you then build up a log of your work, and you can read back decisions that were made 15 years ago. So we have this search tool that if you have a question, if you have a certain topic you want to discuss or work on, there are probably posts or there's a history in the past that people have worked on. So as a newcomer, or they call it pneumatician, you have, it's an overwhelming amount of data that's coming at you, but it's there. And that's great, because you can do all your own research without having to ping people, say, oh, I have a question about this. Where can I find that? It's there. It's open to everybody.
Oh, that's great. So just moving back to WooCommerce. I mean, well, actually, let's just quickly round off with Automattic. I mean, Automattic have a lot of different companies that they've brought in. I mean, I remember them getting Tumblr, which was quite interesting. Day One. So that's interesting. So Day One is a journaling app that I used to use. I don't use it anymore, but actually when I used it, I loved using it. It's really interesting. I didn't know they had acquired that as well. But they seem to sort of be pulling some companies together, pulling lots of ideas together. Do you know what their sort of ultimate direction is for this? Maybe that's a bigger question for you, but I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, well, it's democratizing publishing, and whether that's e-commerce or journaling, and that's always the goal. It's to do the right thing, to make the web a better place. I mean, it's right there. But it's very true. That's what's embedded in our day-to-day work. If it's the right decision, it's a good decision.
Yeah, cool. So WooCommerce, how does this fit within WordPress? What is it for?
WooCommerce is just a plugin, but it's a very powerful plugin. And the plugin has a very large ecosystem around it, and it's huge. It's hundreds of businesses understand the power of WooCommerce. So I mean, you see the logos. They have all the payments plugins, but also the marketing plugins, or companies that want to collaborate and work and integrate with WooCommerce.
It is. I mean, it is a plugin for WordPress, but it is so much more than that, because it adds so much functionality that WordPress doesn't have. It really sort of takes it to a new level. And we use it, I'd say, pretty much exclusively for any store that we're building. What One, because I know it, but it's also extendable. That's what I love about it. There are other, platforms that people use to make shops like Shopify, Squarespace. But the problem is you're always reaching limits. There's always something you're going to reach where, I can't do that because now the platform won't let me. And even Shopify, where it does have lots of extensions and there's sort of abilities, extras where you can sort of extend it, well, they don't always work. They're a little bit clunky. You can't just go in and adjust the code. And I think for me, coming from a programmer perspective, I love that I can just go in, reach in, and make my own adaptation for that, which is, what's nice. So it can take it from people who don't do any code at all and just want to build a shop, put a theme in place, put the WooCommerce plugin on, and they've got a shop, through to programmers who can make it their own. And I love that.
There's a way. There is a way to do it, and probably somebody else has done it already. If not, there's a plugin written for it. And you can very quickly, within a couple of days, have the basic outcome of what you want to achieve with any e-commerce setup.
So where is WooCommerce going? What's the heading for it? Because there was many years where it was not stagnant as such, but it was just a plugin that allowed you to put products online. But I've noticed over the years that it really is expanding what it can actually do, where it can reach, what it can integrate with. What's the ultimate idea for WooCommerce?
So the foremost is to build a platform or framework that's stable. So anything we add, it needs to be backward compatible with all the millions of stores that have maybe all the versions of WordPress, all the versions of WooCommerce. So stability is super, super important. And then it's a developer's tool, just exactly what you said earlier. I know what I can do with it. I know it's the potential, the possibilities are unlimited. And if that's the case, the plugin itself is free. You can download it, you can upload it to your WordPress site, you can add a payment type to it, and you can sell anything within minutes. And that's something that's very, very powerful. Yes, there are, of course, arguments that we should go bigger and larger. And of course, there are e-commerce competitors that, we get compared with, but we are not. We are not a 10,000 strong workforce. We are not a platform where you come to and you pay a monthly fee and we give you a certain amount of tools. And if you want more, you upgrade. That's not what we are. We are, essentially a plugin for developers, but a very popular one and very successful, especially because of the COVID pandemic, that people realize that's probably the only lifeline they have to have their WordPress website and add some sort of payment.
That's interesting. Did you see a lot of growth and usage of the plugin?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't there at Automattic during the period of COVID. I was there at Yes, of course, but that really helped and supported the business quite a bit. Yeah.
No, I'm sure it did. And actually, it's important what you said earlier about it being free. WordPress is open source and it's free to use. As long as you can host it somewhere, it's free for you to use. WooCommerce, the plugin, is free to use and gives you most features that you would need. And then you can add a payment plugin. We use Stripe a lot. Stripe is not free to use, but you don't pay a monthly fee, you just pay a commission. So actually, to get a shop up and running, it's completely free. As long as you've got some time set aside, you can get a shop up and running completely free, and you're just paying commission on any transactions. Obviously, there's a lot more
transaction fee.
Yeah. So I think that's quite a strength. There are these other platforms, Shopify, Squarespace, and so on, Wix, and lots of them that offer e-commerce facilities. But you have to pay. You have to start paying, which when you're starting out, when you're testing something and you just want to see, is this viable for me to sell something online? Actually, even just, $26 a month for Shopify can be quite a big outlay for people. So it is important to know that you can get a shop
and also
for free.
Look at the transaction fees, because I know some hosted platforms that have a much steeper transaction fee for credit cards and alternative payment types. Of course, I know the arguments that people say, well, if I want to add some plugins, it quickly adds up as well. But my counter argument to that is, well, it saves you a lot of time, because you can code those things. You can code your own subscription functionality if you want to. It might take you quite some time, and things will go wrong, especially when you start updating. So, the fee of I can't remember, $150 to $200 per year to have a plugin that gets updated and is always working seems quite a good value proposition against doing it yourself. So that's the way I look at it.
No, I agree. And I work with clients who, some have used Shopify, some have used other platforms, and the costs soon mount up even in Shopify when you're having to pay their next level up. You're having to pay subscriptions for all of the plugins. Actually, you know what? It ends up costing more. So
yeah. And how much would it cost if you decide to use a different platform or change something more significant to your offering, and you have to integrate? That's also a cost to bear in mind, which you don't count for when you, as a startup, because all you want to do is to get that first sale in.
Exactly. You just want to get going, and then you're not stuck necessarily, but you're in this certain platform, and it then becomes very difficult to move. There's a lot of cost to do that. So just stepping back from WooCommerce and looking at the e-commerce landscape, where is that heading? Because let me maybe give you some context or somewhere to start from. We all think about e-commerce as, well, setting up a website and being able to sell online. And now that's reasonably straightforward and easy to do with the thanks to, plugins like WooCommerce. But e-commerce is changing. You can now buy on different platforms. Obviously, Amazon's a big platform in and of itself. eBay is a big platform. Social media channels are becoming big platforms. What is e-commerce now? Where is it heading?
So e-commerce is anything. I think commerce is online commerce. If you want to do a transaction, if you want to sell something, a service, a product, it's now part of you, of who you are. And I think even individuals soon will have their own commerce platform, because if you start up a market stall or a car boot sale, how often you go somewhere, you just go there with your phone because you forgot to take hard cash with you, expecting that you can just tap and pay for something. Yeah. But then, of course, you need to be able to charge the right amount, even if it's a pound for a pallet of strawberries. You need to be able to process that. So whether you have a very simple POS, or if you have a phone where you can generate a QR code and pay through that with somebody else's PayPal account, it all needs something. And at the moment, that's everywhere, and every big company tried to develop their own perfect solution. I think, and I predict that it has to become easier, where you own your own data. You in control of your own data. You control of your own pricing, and also how much commission you prepare to pay for different payment methods. So, to me, and I see that vision quite clearly, is WooCommerce could be a really big part of that, where you have your own offering, your own service, your own products, whether you're a web designer or run your own market stall, and you have various devices connected to that. Those pin and chip card readers, for example, that connect to your phone. Your phone is connected to your own WooCommerce store, but you own your own data. If you then decide, well, actually, I want to sell on Amazon, that's just a connection. You don't have to migrate and start up a whole new account and duplicate all your products or services to another platform, which then, once you start selling and you have availability of 10, well, you have to keep stock count on 2 different platforms. If you then extend that into eBay and Etsy, well, that's when it becomes really complex. So owning your own data, having that as your core, your master file in your own hosted WordPress site, I think it's probably the only way forward to have a future-proof commerce offering.
Yeah, I agree, because if you're reliant on a particular store, not only is it then difficult to move away, or possible, everything's possible, but it is harder to do that. But also, you are at the mercy of the store owner. So if you step over a line that they've drawn in their terms and conditions, through no fault of your own, something goes wrong, or you get a certain amount of reviews that triggers a ban or something on your store, that's it. You're gone. Your sales immediately drop. Having your own store where you own the data, it's in your you manage it, and then you integrate and push out to these other places, just seems to make so much sense to me. It's like protecting your own brand. You manage that, and then you can sort of push it into these other places. It's a bit like, I find, people who are on social media, and that's where they communicate with a lot of their customers.
Yeah.
When they need to move away from that, or when they're facing problems with social media not giving them the access they need, it's really difficult, because they're kind of addicted to that channel to then move away. Whereas if you have your own website and you're running a blog on there and all your content's on your website, and then that's pushing out to these various different places, you're in control, you're in ownership. And ultimately, if that channel if that network pulls your channel down, doesn't matter so much, because you're still bringing people to your hub. So I definitely think it's the same with e-commerce. However,
I think we've all heard some horror stories, isn't it, of Facebook accounts being, well, let's say, hacked or even suspended, and that's your business overnight, gone, finished. Yeah,
I know. I've definitely read a lot of about a lot of influencers where, maybe they have stepped over the line, maybe they've done something wrong, but it's very difficult for them to argue their case, because their channel's immediately stopped or a ban's put on it. They just disappear overnight, and it might take them ages to go back. And because these social companies are so large, it's not, dealing with some of the smaller people who are part of their network. They're just not interested. However, a lot of people are on social media. A lot of people are in these different spaces. And I find that their expectations are that they want to make things easy. They see a product, they want to buy it in that platform, and they don't want to move elsewhere. And I certainly see companies like Facebook like that idea too, that they can actually have a piece of that pie, a commission for every sale that goes through. Do you see that as an area where e-commerce is moving to, regardless of whether you have your own store? Do you feel that's where ultimately people do want to buy in the location that they are at the time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, impulse buys, and especially, and it's convenient. You don't need to make another account. If you see something, you like it, and with one click you can purchase it. It's super convenient. You take away a lot of the bottlenecks, and it's powerful. It's of course it's a big revenue earner for Facebook, but also TikTok, Snapchat.
Yes.
Some of the newer, not newer, but especially TikTok, it's going crazy with their growth, and also growth in e-commerce sales.
And I think I read something recently about that WooCommerce is integrating with TikTok to allow you to sell on that. Is that right? Yeah. That's the recent story. Okay.
Yeah. So it's owning your own data and pushing that out into other social platforms.
So how does that work? Let's say I've got a WordPress website, e-commerce plugin on there. So WooCommerce is set up. How do I then push my products out to places like TikTok?
Yeah, and it's simply just with a plugin. So your inventory gets indexed, and you can share that on another social platform. You then have an account on there. You decide how much you want to pay to position something within somebody's would it be a timeline, or how much you prepare to pay to market something. And that's it's the same way that Google Shopping works, same way that Google Search, but also Facebook. But they all have slightly different ways of doing stuff. So therefore, you need to have different plugins in order to push those products out on those other platforms.
Talking of plugins, where would I, if I'm on the WooCommerce site at the moment, where's the best place to sort of browse what's available?
Yeah, it's the extension. So it used to be called the marketplace, but I think extension is the more universal term for plugins now.
So this would be a good place to start, sort of go through and think about what you need. I know Jetpack's kind of a sort of big plugin for for
Yeah,
WordPress.
and they have changed their offering. There used to be one major plugin. Now it's split up, and each of the core plugins do something very big, very well. So the Jetpack backup, for example, takes real-time backups of your WooCommerce store. So if you have half an hour where you're down, your orders are still backed up right up until that moment you went down.
Absolutely essential. Yes, you don't want to be losing any orders that come through, definitely.
No, exactly. If something happens, and next day you wake up after let's say a busy sales period, maybe not quite Black Friday, because I'm sure you're right away all the way through. But if suddenly something happens, you've missed out on all your orders. That's can be a disaster.
And so, I mean, one of the things you mentioned in sort of preparing for us talking was omnichannel. So is that what we're talking about here, where you're using WooCommerce as your core, where everything is? That's where all the product database is held, but also you've got a commerce website. But then using various plugins you can get from WooCommerce and other providers, but WooCommerce has a lot of them on here. You're then able to hook into these other places. So what are you able to name any off the top of your head? What are the popular ones? Obviously, we've mentioned TikTok, eBay, Amazon.
eBay, yeah, Etsy, Amazon. I think they're probably the big ones. And then there are a few local, like Europe has bol.com in the Netherlands. It's really big. And some other countries have other marketplaces that are very popular. But the idea is that you have your product, you set your price, you have your stock on your own site. You share that then on the other marketplaces. If you then sell an item on Etsy, that also reflects on your offering on Amazon or on your own site, so you don't oversell. That's the key. But also when it comes to delivery, so if you connect your site with a with a company that takes care of your shipping, that if a sale is made from Etsy, that the right amount is charged in order to sell it to another country, but also
that's good.
It has all the right codes, especially selling abroad. You need to have the code of HS code of the country of origin.
Because that could be a big headache otherwise.
Yes, because you something and the receiver realizes like, I have to pay an extra tax and this and that, and refuses. It's quite a lot of stories of companies that have suffered badly from some of these changes.
Yeah. And obviously another channel is in person. You mentioned that, if you're a stall holder and you're selling something in person, I assume WooCommerce has like a POS, a point of sale front end that you can integrate with that, because I think that's, a lot of people think e-commerce just online, but actually it's good if you're in meeting people in person, even someone like me who's delivering a service or consultancy, actually having the ability for people to pay in person is quite useful as well.
Yeah, so we launched the in-person payments in the US and Canada with our own WooCommerce device that you connect to your phone, so you can create orders on your mobile phone with the WooCommerce app and then take payment there and then. That's we expanded on other countries. In other countries, I think UK will come up.
It's coming, is it?
Yeah.
Do you know? I know that the iPhone OS is opening up the NFC reader for wallet payments to third-party apps. Do you know if WooCommerce is going to be integrating with that? Because then it basically allows you not to need any other separate hardware. You can just basically tap on the back of the phone and the phone will read the card or the other phone.
I wouldn't know exact, and I couldn't confirm, but I would be very surprised if the mobile developing team aren't on top of that, making sure that the WooCommerce app does exactly that. Yeah,
I mean, it's fairly new. I think it's only coming out in this iOS release coming up. So it's
I did realize. I read up on that. Apple is going fast with these things. They realize the potential of commerce with your phone.
It's amazing because the phone has everything it needs. It's just a case of unlocking that to other people. So I'm great that's being opened up. We've talked a lot about development. What is there in terms of from a development community in terms of developing for WooCommerce? where would be useful resources here? I've just pulled up the developer blog, which is available from the WooCommerce site. Are there any useful resources here for people wanting to develop?
Well, the developers blog is, I think, a key part to sign up to. So any updates, you get those into your sent to your email account, because they happen pretty much every week. There's a new release.
Where do I do that? Where do I sign up for these releases?
So in your right, you see right in the corner, it says follow.
Oh yeah,
and all those
there it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Pop in my email address,
and you can decide how often you want to receive. That's really important, because you have regular updates on the new releases and what's new, and it asks you to test. There are two, well, there are probably more, but there are two key developments I want to share with you. And one is, of course, the blocks and the full site editing. That also, well, that's part of WordPress, but that's also coming to the WooCommerce, and that's a really big part, because the cart and checkout block has been developed. That gives you a lot more flexible editing capabilities on how it looks, but also how it works.
Great.
But that, we're working with a lot of external third-party developers, and they need to catch up. It has to be backwards compatible. So that always takes a lot more time, but testing is really important. So if you have a plugin, do test it. The second part is the database tables, and in this case, it's the order database table that is being redesigned. Again, the backwards compatibility is super, super important. And that will be expanded into product table as well, and the coupon database table. That redesign will support the scaling of WooCommerce, because originally it was designed in a WordPress way for blogs, for articles, but product data, customer data is way more complex.
It is, yeah. So it's quite different, isn't it? So you're moving out of that main posts table.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, in the WooCommerce developers blog, read up on that. There are various calls on how you can test it, when to test it. If you're looking after various stores, that's, to me, a key part to be kept up to date and be ready for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's really interesting with the full site editing. In all honesty, I haven't got into that yet. The theme that we've developed is embraces blocks, but not the full site editing yet. And it's something that when we develop our new theme that we're going to use for web development, that I definitely want to embrace that, because using blocks has been lovely. I remember us talking about it, and it was probably reasonably new at the time. Certainly it was in the current release when we talked about it, but it's still quite a new thing. Now, I mean, I love using it. I definitely wouldn't go back. And when you start using other block builders, or I say block builders, get very frustrated. I know, working on some of the sites with Claire, we see these old block builders, and it's so frustrating. So it's a breath of fresh air to use the WordPress block system. So to know that WooCommerce will be using that, and certainly for the product and checkout side of it, to be able to edit that, which is only something you've been able to do with filters really before, or actually altering the templates, which isn't ideal. So nice to do a sort of front end way.
Yeah, and that's what come very soon, is the category and the product blocks, in order to make some funky changes to that. But then there's always the question is, what do people expect? Do they expect the image on the left and the price and short description on the right? And if you start changing that, will that affect your conversion rate? But that's a totally different discussion. But I do wonder if we stick to that basic e-commerce principle that Amazon, eBay, they all have that.
Yeah, trying to make sure that basically all the key information is above the fold. It's the first thing you can see. The thing I always remember, Ronald, is that people always want everything. So you just have to go down the middle and find the best way forward for them. Perhaps we could move on to the community side of WooCommerce. I mean, you talk. There's a lot of information on here. Is WooCommerce going out to the community separately to WordPress, or do they go go under the same banner? Do you have separate, just like WordPress has the WordCamps, do you have separate ones specifically for the WooCommerce side of things?
Not for WordCamps. We do have the meetups. So you have the WooCommerce meetups. I think there are about 100, or I might be totally wrong and I'll be told off for that. But I think it's 100, just under 150 different meetups, WooCommerce meetups around the globe. I myself run or co-host the London one, which we've done for the last 2 years online. For a big part of that was on a weekly basis. A couple of weeks ago, as I mentioned earlier, we ran the first in real life at the Klaviyo offices. We had various speakers, sponsors. There were donuts, there was pizza, there was beer, and lots of.
Why didn't I know about this?
Oh, I did publish it. But yeah, it's so true. It should be. It should be shared a lot more. No, it was fantastic and very encouraging. And we'll do one again in probably September or so.
Do you have a list of when those events are coming up?
I mean, on the meetup.com page website, you'll probably filter it by WooCommerce meetup.
Okay, we'll try and get a link for that.
Scheduled yet, but there might be a chance we'll do one in July. There's an awful lot of things going on, not just for myself, but with the run up to the holidays as well. Then of course you have the WordCamps. WooCommerce is always a big part of that. We sponsor the European one, we'll sponsor the US one, the big ones, and we also global sponsor. So there is a presence of some in pretty much every WordCamp.
Yeah, and there's a lot that aren't based. I was looking at more WordCamps here, and there's nothing in the UK at the moment. I don't know if I've missed one for the UK.
No, and there is talk, and I spoke with a few previous organizers of WordCamps in the UK, how to tackle it, what the best time is, what the best location is, and it is difficult because you want to have a London one or a UK one, but it needs to be in a central location, and that's part of the whole WordCamp setup. People can access it and there's enough accommodation. But of course, London is super, super expensive, and you want to make it accessible and very affordable for everybody to attend. And that sometimes doesn't go hand in hand unless you have a very good donor or a location that would give you a very favorable rate.
Yeah, and with with COVID is a different matter now, but we still taken various. There are still restrictions or certain additional hygiene that needs to be taken place, or seating arrangements or fresh air. So it just makes these things a little bit more difficult to plan, and it's all done by volunteers, even though there are sponsors to help pay for a lot of it. It is done by volunteers, so it's a lot of work. So I can understand why they haven't really sort of bounced back quite, but I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I should put my hat in the ring to help.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a community thing. There are Slack groups, and if you say, "What about this? Can I help?" And there might be a few other people say, "Maybe it's the time right, and let's put our heads together."
Yeah, it's great fun. I joined in on the SEO Brighton one, and that was really good. So I might do that again. Now I'm venturing out into the world again. So just sort of finishing up now, do you have any good WooCommerce tips, maybe lesser known things that would be useful to people to sort of push their WooCommerce to the limit a little bit?
I think, and it's probably not totally new, but the listing of products or the free listing on Google, and Google Shopping has this filter by what's nearest or your local area. And I was looking for things, and I realized how underused that is. And with the free Google Listings plugin we have, it almost seems like a no-brainer why shop owners aren't doing that, because that seems such an obvious way to attract local business, even if you have a store, but especially if you have a brick and mortar store, to bring people into your door. Yeah,
so this is where you can, I'll see if I can bring something up. Let's look for red shoes. And then we go to the shopping element here. This is using Google's merchant application, I guess you'd call it. where you can set up a profile for your shop. And in fact, we've got one profile where we can have sub profiles for our clients. And it all used to come from Frugal, which I think was their original product system. But then they kind of bought all that in-house under Google, and then they made it paid for only. So you had to run ads to get your products to show. But now with a Google Merchant account, you can actually run free listings on there. And then you get in all of these, I believe, are free listings. So these ones just down the bottom, these are all potentially free listings, which you can publish to Google completely for free.
And you can see the filtering method on the left, how extensive that is. I think very few stores will have such an extensive listing or filtering of their own store. So there's a very good chance to bring in way more customers into your store.
Yeah, I think so. And we've definitely implemented this for a few customers, and they do see extra sales because of it. A lot of people are very visual. They just don't want to look at the all Google list and look down these products, even though Google is throwing a lot of images in here and obviously these
at the top it's there, and if it suggests go into shopping. It's but if you look, for example, safety shoes, I did a test on that. So you would have all the big national brands. It was, at least in my case, there you go. Screwfix, Toolstation. But I'm sure safety shoes are sold also in independent stores, but they're not listed. So I think that's a good opportunity there.
It is definitely a missed opportunity. And you're saying that plugin is freely available for people to add.
Yeah. And of course,
that's something I didn't know, actually, Ronald. So that's great. We'll make sure we add that link in for people to add that on. And that plugin, I'm assuming, will create a feed, and that feed then goes a feed of all the products and all the data that Google Merchant needs, and that can go straight into the Merchant account. And then once you get it published on here, I must say Google Merchant isn't the most intuitive app to use of Google, but if you go through a few tutorials, you'll get your products onto Google.
Yeah, and it's improving. It is getting better because exactly what you said.
Like a lot of Google, I think they make things look like they're easy, but they're actually not, and they almost make it too verbose and too over the top that actually it's more complicated. But maybe that's me coming from a programmer background.
Quite often it's because data is missing, and we want to list something fast because it looks all right, but then we're missing out on the data that's not visible but is readable by computers. That's missing.
Do you know the one key we'll come up against, and I'll let people know this because it's probably an error they'll get. Once you put your feed in, one thing Google might come back at is it wants the main international number for that particular product. So most products are going to have some kind of barcode, ISBN, MPAN number, just like manufacturer's part number thing. All products generally are going to have that unless it's a custom product. If you don't have it and Google thinks you should have it on that particular product category, it won't let you list the products. So you do need to put this data in there. But once it's in, you do open up yourself to more potential traffic. So that's a really, really good one.
Yeah, it's well worth to put in that extra bit of effort in updating those into your product listing, for sure.
Cool. So we've done a walkthrough of WordPress before. It was back at club session number 25, where I basically took a basic fresh install of WooCommerce and walked people through it from start to finish, how to set up all the basics, and then how to do some basic order processing. However, maybe you've got some ideas of other resources that people, if they're completely new to WooCommerce, that would be good to check out. Where should they start?
It might sound really obvious, but YouTube is still the best place to learn something, a new skill. And like yourself, if that's uploaded to YouTube, which it is, and you come across and you feel that's the right person at the right level talking to you, I don't think anybody can beat that. I can build a tutorial, which Automattic can or WooCommerce can, but it only takes you so far. It maybe tells you how to upload a product, because after that, there are 1,000,001 possibilities to set up your own store. So it is impossible to set it up unless you copy exactly what somebody else does. which you probably don't want to because you want to improve on that.
Yeah.
It's an impossible task to build an academy for WooCommerce. I mean, a lot of the hosting companies, they have their own tutorials, they have their own guides. Various page builders have some pretty good tutorials with accompanying videos, and you decide your own path and route into your successful outcome, and that's always very different to how you set it up from the beginning. Your end goal, I know, is going to change because along the way you see so many opportunities, which can be challenging to maybe ignore or put on a phase 2, for example.
It can. I mean, yeah, you're quite right. I mean, WooCommerce is quite open in terms of what you can do. So the variety of different types of stores that it can get you to, from selling a physical product all the way through to selling a virtual download and be able to deliver that all online. It can manage that all out of the box.
Here's a good story. So I started to learn Joomla years ago, and I was then offered a part-time job as a WordPress developer, and I didn't know WordPress. I knew the basics and the code of web development. So I binge watched loads of video tutorials from OS Training, and later on, in a few years later, I met the tutor of those OS videos, and also the owner of the company at WordCamps, and I've been doing some stuff together with them now. And I've told them about the links of how they've actually taught me how to do WordPress within a week. That got me the job, and that's where I am right now. So if it wasn't for those, watching those tutorial videos to get me at least the basics, and also how to manage WooCommerce, I wouldn't be where I was, where I am now. So thanks to Topher, his name is. He's a pretty well-known figure.
Cool. I mean, and that's still available, because we'll make sure.
Yeah, OS Training is worthwhile to take a look at. They have a very extensive library to start from basics, but also more advanced plugin development, for example.
Yeah, and I think that's what's needed often is some basic walkthroughs that don't necessarily get you to where your idea needs to be, but they take you through an example. So by doing that process, you become more confident. You start to see some of the options available. And once you've gone through that walkthrough, you should be more comfortable to then start building it and making it your own. So
so true.
It's nice just to follow things through. Ronald, we're coming up to the hour. Thank you very much. Perhaps where's the best place if people want to find you online? Where can they go?
I'd like to connect with people on the WooCommerce meetup. In real life, ideally, because that's the best connection you can. I mean, that's how we connected. So check out the WooCommerce London meetup. Otherwise, I'm available on Slack, Twitter. Just to Ronald is the handle. I've got a fairly unique name, so I think if you Google that, the first few results will guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, people will find you. Well, I will try, and I would like to see you again in person. I think it'd be really nice. Maybe we can catch up for another beer. And I would, it'd be nice to actually take a trip to London. So hopefully I'll hook something up with you.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
Thanks, Ronald.
Thank you very much.
No worries at all. Let's sign off. Before we do, Claire, perhaps you could let us know. So you're sitting in the background there. Thought you'd escape without saying hello to everyone. Claire, perhaps you can let us know what's coming up next week.
Next week, you're joined by Helen Caldecott to revisit your Be Social book that you wrote back in 2014. Was that right, Ben?
Ages ago. I actually can't remember. I must check on the date, but it was a while ago.
So you're going to have a catch up with her to kind of visit social media to see how things have developed and changed and what's still relevant, and basically kind of touch base on where you think social media is going next. Yeah,
it'd be good. It'd be nice to catch up with Helen again and have a laugh at what we'd written in our previous book. I know I have had a look back through it, and some of the things are quite inspired and insightful. So it'd be good to go back over that again. Thanks, Claire. Right, we're here every Friday from 10 a.m. We cover everything from in marketing, strategy, social, SEO, video, and of course, e-commerce. If you've got something exciting to share, please do email it to us, support@rather-inventive.com. You'll get Claire or me, and we'd like to sort of organize a session with you, bring you on so you can share that with everyone. If you want to invite a colleague, please do. Just share the Zoom link with them. They're more than welcome to come on. Do let Claire know, same email, support@rather-inventive.com, and then we can welcome them on, make sure they know what's going on. And don't forget to catch up with previous webinars. They're available on Basecamp, and we're going to be moving everyone over to our website, and everything is available on there. Hopefully that experience works quite well for everyone. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Claire. Thanks to everyone watching, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.